Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mei Leaf and welcome to another episode of Reviewing Supermarket Teas. In these videos, I blind taste 3 teas that have been kindly sent to us by tea heads out there, purchased from a supermarket, not a specialty store. I try to guess what the tea is, guess the price point, and I score the tea all the way from 0 poison up to 10 pinnacle tea, a score of 10, meaning that it's good enough to be selected for the Mei Leaf shelves. Obviously, 10 doesn't mean that it's the best tea possible out there. It means it's good enough to be part of the Mei Leaf collection, which is a pretty lofty position, as I hope you all know. So it's worth saying from the outset, every single time I do this, that I am not expecting supermarkets to stock teas that are of the same quality as a specialty tea seller. They have a whole different set of parameters and requirements that they need to look at when they're making their purchasing decisions. But my hope is that in a small way, these videos will just nudge supermarkets a little bit, potentially, to improve the overall quality of the choices available on the supermarket shelves. Less of the scented stuff, more of the pure stuff, because that's to everyone's advantage. You get to taste better tea, and more people can experience good tea and hopefully launch their journey off into the wonderful world of pinnacle teas. So this episode, we've got 3 teas coming to us from Italy, from Laura. Laura, thank you so much for sending these. I'm sorry it's taken so long. And also thank you for sending a little present for Ayana, my little girl. We only opened the box recently, or Celine did, and she showed me that you gave a little present. I don't know anything about these teas, and I'm excited to get stuck in. Right, let's begin with tea number 1. I'm sort of hopeful that this is going to be a good session. Oh, I should say, all of these teas come from a supermarket called Natura Si. Natura Si. I like saying that. Apparently it's a supermarket. Apparently, I haven't looked it up. So it sells, a variety of different things like, pet food and toilet paper, and so it's not a specialty tea shop, but it sounds like Natura Si sounds like it's probably more focused on a sort of health supermarket, or like that kind of thing. Okay, so first tea is a green tea. It's almost certainly a Chinese green tea, although it could be a Vietnamese green tea, in my opinion. It's got a very classic sort of cheaper green tea look. It's got that sort of dusty, pale, matte quality to it, to the finish, sort of almost like it's been sort of coated in like it's not dusty, but it just has that texture and the color, which is very reminiscent of the rougher teas out there. A little bit more matte, not very glossy, not glossy at all, really, and almost looks like it's got a powder coating to it. So let's heat up this Gaiwan. I'm going to go very, very simple here. Celine has just given me a Gaiwan, so that means that there's no matchas as far as I'm aware here. And we've got our brew basket here. I don't know. That might mean that there's some more fine teas in here potentially, because this is really good. Our strainers are can get clogged up if you're using very, very fine teas like Fukamushi Senchas, etc., etc. Okay, here we go. First one of these I've done in a while, so I need to sort of recalibrate myself, recalibrate my nose, and think about my scoring, and I want to keep things fair with other supermarkets. Okay, here we go. Smell of this green tea from China or Vietnam is my guess. So it has a very standard stored smell, and I always associate that with sort of sweet sakura blossoms, so cherry blossoms. I actually do not mind that smell. It's quite a pleasant smell, even though it is a symbol that the tea has been sitting around for, I would suggest, at least a year, a couple of years, probably, maybe even a bit more. There's nothing offensive in the smell. It is vaguely sugary, vaguely sweet, a little bit sherbety, but that sakura blossom, cherry blossom smell is a telltale sign that it is not in its prime. Let's put it that way. I should check the temperature of the water, shouldn't I? Temperature of water is 90, so we're gonna let it cool down a bit, but I think this can take sort of 85-degree water. Okay, here we go. Sort of a bit nothingy, you know, it doesn't really have much character to it, but yet again, there's nothing offensive about it. There's nothing that is making me wince. That Sakura blossom is still there. It has a little bit of sort of dusty rooms, a slight, not attic, but like if you've enter a home or a house where there's a lot of wood and it's not been lived in for a while, it just has a sort of stagnant sort of smell about it. Not like offensive, just sort of feels a bit, smells a bit lifeless, if you know what I mean. And if you sort of do some sort of long sniffs, I'm picking up a vague sort of strawberry shortbread note, a little bit more moving into the Luan Guapian sort of melon seed green notes of a Chinese green tea, but very, very, very low down in terms of its intensity. Okay, so we're going to brew this at 90 degrees. I think that should be fine to give me a sense of it. A lot of times when I'm tasting teas, even green teas, I'm doing some tests at like 95 to 100 degrees to really just understand its flaws and its good points. It may not be the best tea that I'm producing, but it gives me an accurate snapshot of, you know, what's happening with this tea. And then you can always then adapt and change the brewing to dial in the parameters and get better tea. Color is very bright, but it has that orangey note that I'm not a big fan of with green teas. However, you know, it's clear-ish. It's not got much in terms of cloudiness. You know what? It's a vibrant tea. I wouldn't necessarily fault it in terms of its look, apart from slightly orangey tinge to it. So I'm expecting here a pretty okay, decent green tea. It looks like it's got a fair amount of thickness, judging by those bubbles. So let's focus on texture first. Okay, so texture is medium thick, which is pretty good. It has a decent body in the mouth. The little wince you may have caught is it's got a sour hit. Now, it is brewing hot, so as we cool that down, it will temper a little bit that sourness. However, again, an interesting experiment. Take a green tea, brew it, intentionally overbrew it, and you will pick up notes that reveal themselves in the hotter brews that show you the quality, and you shouldn't get too much of that sourness. I'm getting a brief but noticeable sourness on the sides and the back of my tongue, which I'm not particularly a fan of. The good things about this tea is, once again, nothing offensive, nothing that's sort of making me recoil, nothing that I find, you know, horrible. It's just lifeless. It doesn't have much going on in terms of taste. It's got texture, it's got body, it's got, you know, the sourness, and it's got a dry to slightly juicy finish. The juiciness that comes out is not sweet. It's just sort of neutral. And that's the problem really with this tea. It's very neutral, AKA bland, AKA tasteless. It doesn't really have much going on in terms of flavor or aroma. in fact, you know, the smell of the empty gongdabe, the smell of the dry leaf, the smell of the wet leaf, they were all pretty much consistent. Sort of more of an aroma that has developed through storage rather than from the actual quality of the leaves. Just nothing much going on. It's the archetypal meh. So I already know that the scoring on this is going to be in meh territory. I will brew it one more time. It's not bad. It's just an example of a tea which... It's an example of a tea which, on one hand, is very inoffensive because, as you can see, nothing particularly to dislike about it, nothing particularly to like about it. It's just... it's okay as a sort of, you know, a hot beverage, like to quench your thirst. But in a way, there's something a little bit dangerous about these kinds of teas because they can therefore represent themselves to people, to consumers, as being, oh, well, that's, you know, it looks like a whole leaf green tea. You know, no doubt it's being marketed as a sort of high mountain spring-picked tea. And so the problem is that I think people are because it is lacking anything offensive about it, but doesn't have anything that's really redeeming about it either in terms of taste, I worry that people would drink this and think, oh, well, that's what green tea is, and then sort of give up on it. And I can imagine drinking this tea and kind of going, well, if that's what a Chinese green tea is, I'm not interested, because it doesn't really have much going on. So in that way, it is a sort of a dangerous, when I say dangerous for the specialty tea world, dangerous for people who really want to like promote tea culture, because it sort of is a bit of a red herring. You may sort of think about it as, okay, it's a decent green tea. And as you can see, the leaves look all right, especially if you don't really sort of have much experience in knowing quality markers. It doesn't look too shabby, not too bad. You know, no major sort of signs of over-oxidation, no major signs of poor picking. It's just lacking character, lacking flavor, lacking taste, lacking life. It's just lacking those more of those ephemeral experiences that people who love tea love about tea. And I'm worried that people are going to miss that. In terms of what I think this is, I think this is a Chinese green tea. My guess is that it's going to be a Chinese, marketed as a Chinese high mountain tea from Zhejiang or Jiangxi province, so around that part of the world. And because Vietnamese green teas tend to have a little bit more of a ricey note to it, a bit more starchy. So that's why I'm leaning towards China. Price point on this, I don't know, God, it's so long since I've dealt in these, like seen price points on these kinds of teas, but I'm gonna guess something in the region of 5 cents per gram. 5 cents per gram, Chinese green tea. Let's see what it is. Oh, score. Look at that score sheet. Well, it's definitely in the meh territory. In fact, yeah, 4.1. So just in meh. I mean, it's not worth reinfusing. You can. It'll be you know, it's not the end of the world. You'll hydrate yourself if nothing else. But yeah, it's straight up meh territory. Okay, so number one here. Will this focus? Hopefully you can see that. Right, what is it? Green Dajang Shan. Dajang Shan. Where's that? I don't recall that mountain. Bio, I assume that means it's organic, and we'll talk about that in a second. Spring, no year. Cultivar, no. Where is it? Jiangxi National Park, Wu Yuan. So yeah, it's Jiangxi. Picking, no information, but it's, you know, decent pickings. Young leaves. No, not really much bud there. Young leaves. Elevation 1,500 meter. Price point is 3 cents per gram. So price point is okay. The picking is okay. I would suggest that the year on this picking is probably around the sort of 2008 19 mark. But let's quickly address the topic of organic, because this is an organic tea, and a lot of these supermarkets, especially a place called Natura Si, is probably dealing mostly, their clientele is probably looking for organic teas. And that's another danger sign for me, because, you know, people have an association that organic equals highest quality. And while that may be true for other food products, which I don't know enough about, but with tea, that certainly isn't the case. It doesn't mean that you can't get top quality tea, which is organic, but you're less likely to get top quality tea that's certified organic for many reasons. And I'll put a link in the description below about this topic, a video about this topic. And this is a classic organic tea taste, because it's inoffensive, but lacks character, lacks taste. And so my guess is that this is an area where there's big plantations of green tea, and they know they can hit the international market with it. They'll make it organic, they certify it organic. They know that therefore they've got an international market place for these teas, and as long as they don't screw it up, it's going to be a meh tea, but people will buy it because they think that they're getting a high quality tea because it's organic green tea. So a word of warning whenever you see organic on the label. Right, let's clear out these leaves. I'm literally going very, very simple here. Just going to rinse the guy one. I'm not worried about flavor transferring across, because there was no flavor in this tea anyway. And we're gonna move this Gong Dao Bei to the side. Take another Gong Dao Bei, put that here. Take another cup, and we move on to tea number 2 from Laura and Natura Si. This is warm, tea number 2. Come on, give me something exciting. Right, okay. I'm gonna put this tea back in here, so you can see this tea here. Here you go. Very, very broken. So a very, very broken tea, and now I understand why Celine has given me this brew basket, because I think she probably picked up that was not going to be an easy one to brew in a Gai one. So what is this tea? Well, at the moment I don't know. I have my suspicions about what it is. Clearly the broken nature of it tells me that this is either a very low quality tea from the Far East, from China, although I doubt it, judging by the multi-colored look of it. You can see you've got sort of pale yellows, greens, reds, blacks. So my suspicion is that this comes from tea growing countries where they're more used to producing Western style English teas, English breakfast teas, etc. So it's probably India, Sri Lanka, or Nepal potentially. Let's see. So I'm gonna give it a sniff. Ooh, flying saucer. Here we go. I'll put it all in. Okay, let's give this a smell. And I'm expecting to have a very pungent, high mountain aroma from this tea. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. Yep, it's there. So this is got a Darjeeling smell to it. What is that smell? And you talk about first flush, second flush, Darjeeling teas. Darjeeling and Nepalese teas tend to have a very specific, flowery, high, pungent and rising aroma, which is actually very pleasant. What is it? It's sort of, it's difficult to pick a flower because it's very sweet, but not sweet like a jasmine sweet. It also has a certain nuttiness to it. So it's sort of a combination. It's very difficult for me to find a flower. Maybe if I went to that part of the world, I would. I'm sort of leaning towards things like orange blossom. So quite straight ahead sweet. If you've ever had like orange blossom water or something like that, you'll know what I mean. It's a very high, bright, sweet aroma. And I like that about these teas. And I like that about high mountain Nepalese, high mountain Darjeeling teas. However, usually there's a problem in the taste, in my experience and in my opinion, which is why I've never sourced a Darjeeling tea, despite tasting quite a few. And I hope that that's going to change. Let's see, I'm going to brew this at about 85 degrees. So what we have here is a tea which it's difficult to know the tea type. I mean, you would sort of say that if it is from that area, it's more likely to be a black tea. However, I know that these areas are experimenting with oolongs and with whites. I'm leaning towards black, but there's a lot of, the problem with Darjeeling, not the problem, but the problem with identifying a tea type with Darjeeling is that the Darjeeling process oftentimes has a lot of green left in the finished product. So there's a lot of green left in the leaves. 95. And so it's sort of, it's difficult. It almost like encapsulates all from green to oolong to black. I'm going to say black at the beginning, but there's a lot of green in here. We'll see how it looks once the leaves have, or the powder has opened up. Obviously, I'm not going to brew this too long, and I'm going to put this through this brew basket here. I'm not going to rinse it, so I will smell the empty, I'll smell the wet leaves after I've done my first infusion, which is now. Very dark color. So again, my guess is that it might be marketed as a black tea, but let me taste it first, because I know that, as I said, in these areas, it's a bit hit and miss in terms of identifying it. Yeah, I mean, okay, so has developed more of a black tea Assam note to it, which is interesting. So that high mountain aroma has dissipated. It's still there, it's still sweet, it's still rising, but there's more body, there's more warmth, which is a little surprising to me and making me want to shift. Maybe this is a Sri Lankan tea. Or an Assam tea, but I don't think so. I think my gut instinct is it is either Darjeeling or a Nepalese tea. And if you're looking at these kinds of supermarkets, then most of them will probably have on their hit list a Darjeeling, right? Because it's like, it's such a famous tea that people are looking for it. That looks like a black tea to me. Let's taste it. Yeah. As feared, it's all aroma, and as soon as you put it in the mouth, it's just so disappointing. Not to say that it doesn't have some character, not to say that it doesn't have flavor, but when you smell the leaves, you have a higher expectation of what the mouth experience is going to be. Texture, bright, medium, thin to medium, refreshing, slightly sour on the finish, but I don't mind that. It's going to be with this powder, you're going to have to really work on very, very flash infusions or cooler temperatures, longer infusions. Leaves are looking lighter now that they've been brewed. The liquor still looks dark. Taste. Got a vague sort of warmth to it, like bourbon, vanilla bourbon warmth to it. It's got a vague sort of almond caramel warmth to it. Vague, low, in the background, but present enough for it to be something that we can talk about. This is going to have a strong body sensation. I can already feel it's going to be, oof, you know, you've got to be careful that, I mean, this is obviously not the standard brewing style for these kinds of teas. Normal brewing style would be much less leaf, longer period of time. And in some instances, that actually is a better brewing style for Darjeelings, in my experience. So it's sort of, you know, gong fu isn't always king when it comes to getting the absolute best out of Darjeeling, but it's always great in terms of assessing quality. I'm just disappointed that I don't have any of that brightness, that rising floweriness in it. Oftentimes it's the other way around, where you smell it, it's very bright and flowery, you taste it and it's all bright and flowery, but there's nothing, there's no foundation, there's no structure, there's no body to hold up that fragrance. In this case, it's the opposite. It seems like it's all sort of gone a bit deadened. And I wonder if this had been full leaf tea, whether or not we would have had more preservation of those flowery notes. It's got bitterness, unfortunately, as well. So I'm going to do a flash brew of this. This is what I'm going to do, because I really want to see what I can get out of it. It's 93, so I'm, you know, temperatures is, I think, the right temperature for a flash brew. So in and out as quickly as possible, really. So a 5-second brew, still pretty strong. I'm a bit confused by this tea. This tea confuses me because it doesn't have the standard sort of profile that I would normally expect from a Darjeeling, in terms of, as I said, those flowery notes with no body. This has more depth to it. No, even flash brews. Sourness is coming out, so the first brew is going to be your best. More sour, more astringent, very drying, bitter, no top note to really, you know, talk about. Yeah, that really has dropped the score, that second infusion. Even with a flash infusion, I'm going to be taking a while for that furry feeling to recover. Okay, kind of confused about it. Is it a black tea? It's very green for a black tea. It almost sort of looks like they haven't quite made up their mind in terms of processing. It sort of looks like one of those hybrid teas where they're going, well, I'm going to make it something different, but they're stuck in their black tea ways, so they can't shift and change and make a different type of tea. I'm tempted to say that it's an oolong or a white, but I'm going to stick with black for safety. I think that it's more likely it's a Darjeeling, probably organic as well. So I'm going to say it's an organic Darjeeling black tea, price point higher than the green. 9 cents a gram. Score on this. Well, is it worth reinfusing? It's more than a meh. I don't think it's worth reinfusing though. I was like, after the first infusion, I'd say, yeah, it's definitely above a 5, but I don't think so. I'm going to give it a 4.8. 4.8 on this Darjeeling. Well, I think it's a Darjeeling. Okay. What is it? White Darjeeling Bio. So yes, it's an organic Darjeeling, but it is a white tea. Season, no information. Cultivar, no information. Darjeeling, India, yeah. First pluck. White tippy, broken golden pico. 1,000 to 2,000 meters, so very wide range of elevations. 0.8 cents, 8 cents per gram. So price point, I was pretty close on. Yeah, a white tea. All right, so yeah, that's they're trying different things out there. I've tasted actually recently a really quite good white Darjeeling, and I was playing with the idea of ordering it. Decided against it in the last minute, but not a great tea. 4.8. Okay, final tea. You know what? I'm gonna reset my tongue a little bit. I'll be right back. Last but not least, tea number 3. Well, at least I hope it's not least. I hope it's the best of the bunch, because currently we haven't gotten over 5 yet in our scoring. Let's see what we got. Okay, we have a Japanese green tea here. No doubt, if the theme is continuing, this is going to be an organic Japanese sencha. Here you go. Let's talk about the look of these leaves. Don't look too bad. In fact, you know, the first tea and this tea, you know, don't look too bad. You've got whole leaf and broken leaf, but you expect that with sencha. The color is, okay, not the most vibrant color, but it's not too muted. It's got some stems in here, so you can see these sort of more yellowy, woody parts are stem material, so it's not particularly wonderfully sorted. It's not very glossy, it's not very rolled, it's slightly larger leaf. So I'm talking about the negatives, but overall, it's not a bad looking tea. You know, it's okay. It sort of is reminiscent of a lot of senchas out there, you know, sort of half decent senchas. Temperature, I haven't heated this kettle up, actually. Ooh, it's still a bit hot. Because I do want to try to brew this a bit cooler, so I'm going to leave that open. And it's actually very fortuitous, and I did not know this, but I also wanted to show you all this. So Adam on Instagram basically has been pestering me to try this hoshigaki. I hope I'm not pronouncing that too badly. Dried persimmon from Japan, a bit of a delicacy, quite expensive. So we ordered some. For those of you saying, oh, it's not covered in the white frost. Yes, it was. I've not stored it perfectly, so I need to eat through these. So this is a dried persimmon, and I've been loving them. And I think it's going to work I know that it is traditionally served with teas, so I think that this is going to be perfect. So we'll put that to the side now. Temperature is down to 83, so that should be okay to cool down the water here. To warm up the Gai One. Japanese sencha, probably organic is my guess. I'm guessing they only do organic teas there. I'm feeling a bit wired from that Darjeeling. It's quite a rough tea in terms of like the body sensation. Intense caffeine hit. Here we go. Not bad. Surprising me. That has aroma. It's got some of that sakura note, so I think it's again not particularly fresh, but the actual quality of the leaf seems to be pretty good. Creams. Simple whipped cream. A little bit of a dried grass, hay sort of note, but I don't mean that as a criticism. I think it's actually quite a nice smell. Little bits of shortbread, a little bit of lemon oil. Actually a nice smelling tea. Okay, what we're gonna do is just, again, I'm not going to rinse this because it's got too much powder in. I don't want to sort of impact too much the first infusion. So I did rinse this, but the little lid down here had some residual tea in, so that's why I did that. Okay. I'm gonna leave it a little bit longer. I think that you can develop a lot of flavor in senchas with a little bit of a longer brew, even though it's broken. All right, let's see. Want a nice, vibrant color here. Yeah, pretty good. Slight orange tinge again, which sort of reveals that it might be not the freshest of teas. You know what? I'm very, very happy with this one. It's got some funk to it, it's got some character to it. It's got an umami note. It's not particularly salty, but it has a rounded, bone brothy sort of note happening. It's got some of those shortbreads, a little bit of sort of strawberry taffy candies, making my mouth water. A little criticism, a little bit of a rubbery note to it. But I get that in a lot of sencha teas. So it's not a particularly offensive or like shocking note to me. But it just has a little bit of a rubbery note to it. Liquor is vibrant, bright, luminous, cloudy. Looks like a fair amount of nitrates went into the soil on this one. So I expect it to be a very fertilized tea, albeit natural, because I'm assuming it's organic. Okay, here we go. Texture. Texture's medium thick. Taste is good. It's good. In the mouth, I'm getting all of those creamy notes. Yeah, it has a creamy texture and a creamy taste to it. In the finish, I'm wishing for it to be a bit sweeter in the finish or a bit more zesty. There is a little bit of a sort of limoncello sweet zestiness if you really sort of search for it. A little bit of sort of grape skin astringency and grape skin sort of tang to it. Not much umami, although it's there, it's just not as much as I would hope. But overall, it's a very decent sencha, and I think praise needs to be given where due. I have no problem with that tea. Slight rubbery note, a little bit. Finish is a bit short and length I would like to be longer. Certainly isn't something that I would select, but is a very easily drinkable tea. I'll infuse it one more time. I am feeling very caffeinated. That second tea messed me up a bit, so I have to be a bit careful because I've got a lot of tasting to do today. We will try this Hoshigaki Persimmon, which I already know I love, but I just wanted to show them to you in case you've never tried them. And it's going to be interesting, actually. I haven't tried it with Japanese tea. Let's see what the second infusion of this is like. Color is a lot more orange, unfortunately. Hopefully this isn't going to drop the score. A bit bitter, a bit astringent, drops it a little bit, but not much. A decent tea. We'll get onto that in a bit. Let's just open this up for you. Can you see that gummy texture? So what they do is they take a bitter persimmon, they peel it, they let it dry a little bit to form a skin, and then they massage it regularly, apparently. Seems to be a theme with high quality Japanese foods, the massage story, and makes this beautiful. So I'm not a sugar person, as in I don't eat sweet things much. And the level of sugar on this is perfect, especially perfect with tea. It's sort of subtle and nuanced. It's sweet, but the fruitiness, if you've ever had persimmon, is gentle, almost subdued and subtle, but I love that about it. It has a nuance to it. It's not dominating the mouth. And the texture on it is gummy and jellied, and when you get them fresh, even more so. or fresh dried or freshly prepared. So this has been sitting a little bit in the, I've looked it up now, I was supposed to keep them in the fridge apparently, which I haven't. But a really, really lovely, lovely tea treat. Take a look inside. One more bite. The texture is so Moorish. Let's see how that works with this tea. Really good, really good. And with a better quality sencha or gyokuro, it would be amazing. The saltiness would bring out more of that sweetness. The subtlety of that persimmon, the different interplay of fresh, warm, sweet, with no acidity is just a really lovely, lovely accompaniment to a tea. It's not going to dominate or fight. And so I love that. And I just wanted everyone to know about it if you haven't already. And thanks to Adam for turning me on to those hoshigaki. So this is a Japanese organic sencha is my guess. Price point is going to probably be around 10, 12 cents per gram. What else to say? A score on it. Definitely stashable. A proper session. You know what? I think if I wasn't as caffeinated as I am now, it was a proper session when I tasted the first infusion. I think it just drops below. I'm going to say 6.8. Good quality tea. And in terms of the hoshigaki, I love this. It's subtle. It's not, you know, one of those mind-blowing flavors, but I like that subtlety about it. I give it a 7.2. Bear in mind, in order for it to hit like an 8 or a 9 in terms of a food score, it would have to be something that you would like, you know, above a 9 means travel across the world for. So 7.2 is pretty good. There you go. Natura Si. Thank you, Laura. I hope that you enjoyed the video, Laura. And, you know, obviously if you love these teas, please keep drinking them. For me, they're all sort of in that meh range of organic teas that, you know, is sort of being passed on as high quality tea. And on that level, I don't like that side of things. In some ways, it's a little bit more sneaky. Apart from that sencha, I think that sencha is a pretty good one. And I would be very happy to have another session with that sencha tea. If you want to contribute to these videos, or you want to send supermarket teas, or you want to send some food for me to review, I'll review anything for you guys. Then please do send it over. I'll put the address in the description below. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you're on the world by browsing meileaf.com. And come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm a pretty caffeinated Don from Mei Leaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.